Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. This is Joker, and it's not about how many times you're knocked down. It's about how many times you get back up. You know, that was from George Custer. Very good quote. I think it's been either knocked down or no matter how many times you fall down, it's all about how many times you get back up. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about my advice, some of the things that I say here on my channel, and what you guys should be doing with your lives. First and foremost, my channel is one part advice, one part entertainment, and one part nonsense. That's really the best way I can put it. It's a place where we can kind of gather together, talk about some issues that guys face. Maybe I can wax on poetically about it, and maybe you get a little bit of advice out of it. But the big important takeaway that I think we don't often talk about is that I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy that decided to film some videos and put out my thoughts out there into the ethos. And if you guys decide to tune in and get something out of it, I think that's important. But the most important thing about kind of what we do is to see different ways of tackling life, to deciding what's right for you and what am I going to do and how do I move forward with my life. And it's been a little while since I just did a kind of a straight talk without any other overlays or anything, so I wanted to do that tonight. One of the big things that whether you're one of you guys that says, hey, you know what, it's important for me to have family. How do I do it? It's important for me to get married, or it's important for me to date, or it's important for me to make $1 million. Whatever it is that is important to you. A lot of times you'll come here and I'll see the questions in the chats down below. You guys will email me some of these questions, and I have a real kind of a simple way to look at it, in that you're going to have to figure it out for yourself. I'm going to give you advice about how to be happy and, say, single or casually dating. And I'm also going to show you a bunch of really bad reasons why I think that's the best way to go. But if you don't think that's right for you, that's fine. The big thing is you have to go out and get or find what's right for you and chase that dream. Nothing says that I'm right. I mean, I've never said I'm right. I've never said, and listen, you have to do this because if you don't do this, you're going to be unhappy. I just say, hey, I think this is what I think and this is what I think you should do with it. So you guys out there that are having your struggles, that are feeling like you're not happy in life, my advice to you is same as it's always been, is to be happy as a person on your own. Be happy as just you. And once you're in a good place from there, you can take your life, take it off in any direction that you want to go. You decide, but here's the important part of it. You have to decide what's right for you, and it's not what I think is right for you. It's not what society thinks it's right for you. It's not what your family thinks is right or college thinks is right. It has to be you thinking what's right. And sometimes the only way to find that ability, the only way to kind of dig deep and say, where is it that I want to go and what is it that I want to do and how am I going to be happy? That's something that only you can figure out for yourself. But you have to be a whole, happy, not successful as far as financial, but successful as far as where am I in my place in life. And here's the great part. If you're not there yet, or you think you've been there multiple times, sometimes you either have to start over, or sometimes you just need to have to pick a direction and go. When I hit I don't know, a lot of people will call it a midlife crisis, but I call it a midlife awakening, is when I hit a certain age and my relationships had ended and I didn't have a new relationship, and I got so fed up with work, I had saved very well. Obviously, you have to do that before you can just walk out on a job. But I'd felt, I've saved up pretty well. I don't have a relationship. I sold my house. All I really have is my dog and my truck and some items. I donated almost everything I owned. I sold my truck, which was only about a year old. I took a little bit of a loss on it. I dropped my dog off at my family's home. I threw everything in my backpack and I started traveling around the world. Only because I didn't know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I was at a crossroads. And I didn't know if I wanted to go back to work. I had a good network engineering job. I was making good money. I didn't know if I wanted to sit in a cubicle and make good money and just have kind of that life. I didn't know what I wanted. So I threw everything away basically to start over again. And the interesting thing is, after traveling, I learned a lot about the world, but I also learned more about myself. And I found that after traveling this way, after only living out of a backpack, I realized all the things that I thought that I wanted in life, that I needed in life, that these things would make me happy. I realized none of it made me happy. The only thing that really made me happy is having time to do the things that I love. But after doing that and coming home, the interesting thing is how many people were not only kind of jealous of what I had done, but how many people also thought what I had done was stupid. That I was kind of throwing my life away instead of putting my nose to the grindstone and doing the 9 to 5 and bringing in good money and getting married, having kids, settling down, house on the hill. So 50% of people were very jealous that I could do that. Most of those guys were married and stuck at home. And then a lot of other people were thinking that I was crazy because I was just going nowhere in my life. But the part of that's the part of this that's important to you is that you're going to have to do what you feel is right. If I had listened to half the people, I'd probably be trying to get a girlfriend. Maybe I'd have a long-term girlfriend. Maybe I'd have a wife again. Maybe I'd be divorced again by now. Maybe I'd have something else bad happen to me. Maybe I'd have a great job. And if I'd listened to the other half, well, they think I did the right thing, and they kind of follow me vicariously, wishing they could do the same thing with their lives. But if I had done either one of those things, I wouldn't have been happy. I had to do what was best for me, and that meant not listening to anyone else's advice. So when we talk here, and in my videos going forward, I can't say everything I want to say in every video, like, remember, when I say this, I mean this, and remember, when I'm talking about this, I mean this. I can't do that in every video, because they'd be terribly long and terribly boring. But I will say is, when you watch videos, whether it's advice about being a single guy and being a bachelor, whether it's advice about how to maybe meet somebody, or about overseas dating, or about financial investment, you're gonna have to figure it out on your own. And then no matter what anybody else says in your life, no matter what anyone else thinks, you're gonna have to do things your way. Because ultimately, there's two things. When you fail, and inevitably you will, whether you fail it, and you guys that haven't had relationships yet, as you grow and mature, as long as you continue to improve yourself, you will be able to have a relationship in some fashion. In most of the cases. And even if not, in many cases now, with the kind of the professionals that are out there today, you can at least get some temporary interactions with women. But no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try at something, you are going to fail. You know, Thomas Edison was once quoted, I think he failed, I want to say he failed building a light bulb or inventing the light bulb 100 times. And when he was asked about it, somebody said, what have you learned from, failing 100 times to make a light bulb? And he said, well, I learned to make a light bulb, and I also learned 100 ways not to make a light bulb. The whole point of it is that from failure, as long as you learn something, as long as there's a takeaway, as long as you improve yourself, it wasn't a failure. You might chalk it up to being a mistake, but it wasn't a failure. I was married. We were together, I think, about 8 years, something like that, 7 or 8 years. At the end of it, you could say our marriage was a failure. Looking back, should I have not gotten married? Definitely not. But I was. And afterwards, I learned from this, number one, how not to date. A better way to date. Number two, what not to give up of your own personal sovereignty to try to make a relationship work, or what not to give up to try to make your partner happy, but in the meantime sacrificing too much of yourself. I've learned there's just way too many things and I've learned not to be married again, to be quite frankly. So at the end of the day, yes, I did waste 8 years of my life, but because of that, it set me in the direction I needed to go and how I'm going to be happy. So if you make a mistake, And whether that's you got in a relationship and you got your heart broken, I'll tell you something right now. If you've never had that relationship and you've never had your heart broken, it's tough to do now because relationships are a lot different. But again, if you improve yourself and you do put yourself out there, I think most of you will be able to get relationships. If you do, hey, best of luck to you. And if it goes well, great. Then maybe you got what you wanted. But when it goes south for you and things go bad and you feel that pain and you feel that hurt, just remember that's a life experience that now you kind of have a baseline. You have something that you've learned from. And then you can say, every time I've learned or every time I've loved a lot, when I've loved deeply and endlessly, I always get burned. And then I hurt deeply and endlessly for a very long time. And maybe that's the thing that teaches you that relationships aren't right for you, or long-term relationships aren't right for you, or falling in love isn't right for you. But until you experience these things for your own, you're never going to know what's right and what's wrong for you. You should not listen to the talking head on YouTube telling you, hey, this is what's worked for me, this is what's not worked for me. Those are just lessons. Those are things to keep in mind as you live your life and you do your things. But as you go out and do these things, I suggest, first doing them and seeing the results of them. And even when the bad comes or the pain comes or the financial misery comes, as long as you're not getting yourself in real deep, like, getting a divorce and having half your stuff taken, or you have a couple kids that don't like you and she takes half your money for child support. As long as you don't get into a life-altering problem, something relatively short-term, I don't think it's a bad deal to get out there and put yourself out there. So for you guys out there that, a lot of times in my comments you guys disagree with me. I love that. I love when you disagree with my take on something. That means we're thinking. That means we're talking. It means we're coming up with critical ideas. I'm throwing my ideas out there. You're listening. You're commenting back. Sometimes you agree. Sometimes you don't disagree, or you disagree. And maybe we're at a difference on something. That's awesome. And if you find that something different works for you than has worked for me or anybody else, do it. But the last thing you should do is, we get one shot on this planet. We get one shot until it's over. Whether you believe in something beyond or not, it's not the same as what's here. And so you get one shot at this. And the last thing you want to do is be at the end of your journey, looking back and saying, I would have, I should have, I could have, but I didn't because excuse. Those should be out of your repertoire. You should definitely be going out there and sampling life and learning your own way, in what's important to you, okay? My mother once told me a long time ago, and I don't remember the example she gave me, but she was something like, do you remember, because we were talking about time slipping past and how quickly time can seem like you're working in a cubicle, you're doing the same thing day after day after day, and you look down at your watch and you realize all of a sudden, holy crap, 5 years have gone by. And yeah, I've been going to the gym every day, and I'm this and I'm that, and my dog's a little older, but my life really hasn't gone anywhere in 5 years. And then when I did my travels, every day I was sleeping in a different spot with my tent pitched somewhere out in the middle of Iceland or New Zealand, or sleeping in a different hostel in Thailand, or going on a different date with an attractive woman from a different country. And I went on one date where we didn't even speak the same language. I was in Peru, and she's only spoke Spanish, I spoke English, and we used Google Translate to talk back and forth. Believe it or not, you can still flirt that way. You just have to be very creative with it, and also hit a dance floor. Peruvian women in a dance floor, you dance well, you're in. But the whole point is, there's so many days along that trip that I remember when I traveled around the world that every day became a big memory, a big event. Everything was interesting. And some nights you're in the rain trying to find a place to pitch your tent. It's 10 o'clock at night, cars are going by, you're somewhere where you shouldn't even be pitching a tent, and you've got to hide it in some shrubs and try to get dry. Man, that's an exciting day. I'll remember that day forever, and all I was doing is pitching a tent in the woods. And no, that doesn't mean I was overly excited. So life is going to be these tent pole, these kind of, when you're too young to have gone to a circus, so just picture a big canopy tent that you might see at a Renaissance fair. And everything that's meaningful in your life is a moment that you will remember forever. So the first kiss you ever have, you'll remember. The first time you drove a car, you'll probably remember. The first time you ever you were ever with a woman, you'll remember. The first time, every bone I've broken in my body, I remember. The ultra marathons that I've run, the ultra marathons that I've swam, I remember all those because those were big events. But you don't even, and those were years ago. But you don't remember what you did like last Wednesday at 4:00 in the afternoon, unless it was meaningful, because those days just slip by. So the important thing for you guys is to do things in life. Hit that gym. Make goals for gaining muscle or losing weight. If it's a point to go out and date, get out there and start talking to people just when you're in the grocery store. Just say hi to somebody. You don't have to strike up a deep conversation. Just say hi. Start interacting with people. Start to get practiced on that. And then the first time you get a date will be a big moment, or the first time you're with a new person, whether it's intimately or whatever. All those become meaningful moments in your life. And the more meaningful moments you have, the more interesting and the more filled and the more exciting your life is. One of the problems with dating today that I'm so harsh on the relationship hopping that so many people seem to do today is because they'll get in a relationship and, it's exciting, it's butterflies and it's tingles, and then a week, a month, 3 months, 5 months, the fun's gone out of the relationship. Not really. The fun goes out of everything after a little while. It's just the way it is. Show me a guy that's sleeping with a supermodel, and after a year, I'll show you a guy that's tired of sleeping with that supermodel. That's the old saying. You got to keep things spiced up and interesting, and too many people say, well, I'm just going to relationship hop, or I'm just going to do whatever. Go out there and make some meaningful moments in your life, whether it's for or against what I suggest or other people suggest. Your life's your own. You got to make something count of it, and you got to get out there and start getting these things happening for you. I just wanted to put that out there for you guys because I don't want you to feel that because you hear from other people or myself that, hey, this is the way you need to do things, and if you do it this way, you're going to be successful, because that's not the same way for everybody. Just get out there and lead your own life, find out what's right for you, and I think it'll fall together for you. And also a lot of that insecurity and the I don't know what I'm doing and what should I do and how do I go about this and how's it going to come about? Man, just get out there and do it. And if you fail, you learn. And if you succeed, you learn. Either way is a win. And the more times you fail, the better you learn. That's all there is to that. So, guys, if you'd like to support my work, links are below as always. If you have, thank you very much. And the best way you can support me is like, comment, share, subscribe, and check out my older videos. Guys, I'll leave it there. This is Better Bachelor. I am Joker. And remember, you get one shot at this. Make it count. Make it important. Don't listen to whatever anybody else says. Maybe to listen to their advice. But ultimately, you've got to make this your own and make your life what you want it to be.